listen only mode.
Hey everyone, so this is the last in the webinar series of Understanding the Masculine and Feminine Energy, hosted by the very lovely Maree. So yeah, I'll hand it over to Maree. Anyone get any questions, just post them through to me on the question box and then we can unmute you or whatever. So we'll see how we go. All right, Maree, over to you.
Thanks, Pete. Hi, everyone. It's very exciting. It's the third one, and this is one of my favourite parts of this sort of series because we get to do a lot of the how. So tonight you're going to get to do a little bit more on yourself. So you're going to get to understand exactly where you are, and then I'm going to give you some tips on how you move through whatever situation you're in. So let's just, as normal, a place to start. So let's have a look at where we are. Oh, my thing's not moving. What's going on here? Here we go. So what I want to do is I've shared the information. I want people to take some of this away and really apply it. Focus on that relationship have cycles. And this is really important because cycles are, it's how the world works. But the relationship cycle applies to us as individuals. So the relationship we have with ourselves goes through a cycle. And the relationship we have with others, whether it's an intimate relationship or a business relationship or a friendship. And once we start to get our head around that we move through things all the time, the issues or the challenges we may come up against really have some context, because it gives you an indication you're either trying to move to another part of the relationship or the other person's not, or vice versa. So I really just want to connect back to say, well, you know what, there's no right or wrong about where you stopped a relationship or why you started a relationship, but just become aware that the relationship does have a cycle, and if you don't move through them, they'll either stop or they'll become very stagnant and they will become stale and boring and you get frustrated and they're not very nice to be in. So I just want to recap that before we moved on. So I want to do a little exercise just to get us kicked off, because I want us to really connect with where you are right now. And you may have been identifying as we've gone on whether you're in your masculine or your feminine, or you're not quite sure. So I just want to do this quick little exercise to give you a really solid understanding and to connect into your body, for you to have actually an understanding and experience of what energy you're actually in. So I just want you, if you have a pen and paper handy, if you could just grab it. It doesn't need to be like a big piece of paper. You just need something to scribble on at the end of this exercise. And once you come back with your pen and paper, I just want you to get really comfortable. So of course, I know your mobile phones are off and all of that sort of stuff's been done, but I just want you to sit wherever you are. And of course, if you're driving your car, please don't do this in your car. Take a big deep breath in, and I just want you to become really relaxed. I want you to become aware of the bones in your feet, in your legs, and become really conscious that they're strong and they're there to support you and they're heavy. Just become very calm and just another deep breath in and out. I'm going to read a number of words. I just want you to listen to the words and just notice and observe what reactions you may have in your body, in your head, just generally what goes on when I read these words out. External, separate, structure, troll, angular, hard, penetrating, doing, bold, purpose-driven, protective, ordered, goal, perfection, linear, focused task, discipline, non-changing, predictable, right, control, secure, and think. And I was just scribble down anything that you noticed about, did you have any reactions in your body? Was your brain going berserk? Did you feel calm? Did you feel in control? Did you feel comfortable, or did you feel uncomfortable? Just jot down a couple of words, how it is that you reacted to those words. I just want you to shake your body around a little bit, just where you're sitting, and come back to a nice, really comfortable position. And I'm going to read another set of words, and I want you to again do the same thing. Notice how they make you feel or any reactions that you have. Internal, emotional, related, flow, surrender, round, soft, receptive, intention, being, love-driven, nurturing, vulnerable, wild, imperfection, multitasking, ever-changing, unpredictable, body, creative, free, feel, and communication. I just want you to write down how you felt through that, whether you were comfortable or uncomfortable, any images, did you want to squirm, did you have any type of reaction at all? And I want you to write just in the question box, I want you to tell us which one gave you the biggest reaction, the first set of words or the second set of words. Pete, how'd you go on that one?
Yeah, I was pretty comfortable with both, to be honest. But I remember doing this with you before, and I was uncomfortable. Whenever we had a one-on-one.
You were uncomfortable, weren't you?
Yeah.
So which ones did you either resonate with the most that you thought, wow, I actually feel really comfortable with those words, the first set or the second set? Or which ones did you have the biggest reaction to? Just let me know in the, just type it in the question box.
The question box is
Cool.
frozen. It's frozen.
Okay, well, I'll move on and then Pete, you can tell me when they come through.
Cool.
There's a reason why we just did that exercise. I'm going to come back to it in a second. So the topic of tonight's conversation is about the power of influence. And I really want to talk about what we mean by power. So power is the creation of a win-win situation or outcome. Now, I think I've mentioned before that in our society, we sometimes confuse power, but it's actually force and manipulation. So power is the ability to be part of something, but not have to be the director of something. And you can actually create a win-win situation or outcome. So you're always thinking of a balanced approach or an outcome that is for the benefit of everybody who's involved in it. Whereas force is something that you are trying to manipulate or push an outcome for a win-lose situation. So you're either trying to take something off someone or get someone to take something off somebody else. And that is an unbalanced or win-lose situation. And that's when we feel like we don't have power or we've been shortchanged. And influence is the ability to affect someone's belief or action. So when we combine these two, the power of influence, when you come to a situation with the intention of creating a win-win, and you're actually able to do it by affecting the way people believe or what they're about to do, you're actually creating a really powerful force. Now, influence is about non-manipulation. So when you're in an unresourceful state, we sometimes look at the world and we come from a manipulative. If I do this and that person will do that, and then I'll get this. That's actually not power or influence. That is just force and manipulation. Now, so why am I telling you this? As we go through tonight, we're going to pull together some of the topics we've talked about in the last 2 weeks and understand the more power that we bring to a situation, the greater influence we have to create the win-win for everyone. This is not an opportunity to say, well, if I do this, I'm going to get my own way. It's more, how do I actually assist or facilitate whatever's going on around me so that I can keep moving and the flow of energy can keep going forward. So let's just recap on what we've been talking about, what's resourceful and what's unresourceful masculine and feminine energy. And we'll just link that back to the power of influence. So on the resourceful side of the masculine, so the left side of the brain is being decisive, protective, giving, analytical, focused, driven, and delivery. This is the part of the brain when you click into the resourceful side, you get stuff done. And it's done in a way that is very focused and in a very powerful win-win situation. And the resourceful feminine on the right side of the brain is intuitive and creative, so uses the imagination, very nurturing, is receiving, is vulnerable, has a collaborative approach, and is where our knowing and wisdom come from. On the unresourceful masculine, so the left side of our brain, but in, people like say the shadow or the negative side of our ego, this is where we have our criticism and judgment, where we look and try to have control, where we seek external approval and recognition. We actually live through a lens of scarcity and lack. We blame others. So we have situations happen, we actually, well, it's that person's fault. If they didn't do that, then I wouldn't do this. We're very black and white, right and wrong, and we're quite rigid. And this is the part we talk about quite a lot, where the left side of the brain has that memory component that holds all the past and projects it into the future, and it's very fear-based. So it's the part of the brain that goes on and talks about, if you do this and you'll lose out, or you need to beat that person, or that person's going to do you wrong. That's that part of the brain that tells you that you're no good, or you're not enough, and all that sort of crappy stuff that goes on. The unresourceful feminine is the part where we become quite jealous and victim orientated. It's quite weak, it has really no power. So someone's in their unresourceful feminine, there's no power about them at all. They'll go with the flow, they don't stand up for themselves, they really don't have they're not really offering anything. They're quite disconnected from their body, and they're disconnected from other people. They can live a bit in la-la land. They're quite untrusting and can be described as being naive. And they really don't have a lot of boundaries. So an unresourceful feminine can sometimes be the woman or the man that gets themselves into relationships where they're taken advantage of time and time again. So they might have friends that constantly put them down and they don't stand up for themselves. They probably don't realise it's happening. They believe they're friends when their friends say they're no good. That's the unresourceful feminine, just sitting back and taking. So it's in a receiving mode, but it's just taking crap from its surroundings. So why are we talking about this like this? So obviously above the line, if we're in our resourceful feminine and resourceful masculine, is the most powerful personal state that we can always be in. So regardless of what situation we come into, whether it's a conversation, a relationship, an overall relationship, or we're negotiating, or we're having fun, when we look at the world through this lens, we actually bring a lot to the situation. If we come from the bottom perspective, and the unresourceful masculine and the unresourceful feminine, we're actually not powerful at all. So let's think about that, because we get caught up on the unresourceful masculine as being powerful. We think that, the fact that we judge and the fact that we say, this is the part that says we're better than somebody else or something else, is the bit that says that you're not doing it right, and it's only one way to do things. I know there's people on the call nodding, because it happens a lot in workplaces, but it happens a lot in our intimate relationships too. When we live in this part here, we actually, our body, especially if we're females, that's where the testosterone comes up. And we often mistake that as being power, but really what's happening in the level of influence you're having in your environment is quite limited. And the reason is when you project, obviously masculine is projecting, it's going outwards. When you project this type of behavior, the people that you're trying to influence are not being influenced. They're feeling like they're being bullied or forced. So they might succumb and surrender because they're probably in their unresourceful feminine, or you push them into their unresourceful feminine, and they don't really have any boundaries. So they take on your point of view, not because what you've got to say is relatively powerful or influential, because they really don't have a view of their own. And what you'll end up doing is just surround yourself with people that will annoy you, and because the unresourceful masculine will tell you that they're stupid, or they're idiots, or they're whatever is the word that you've got to use for them, that they're no good, and that you continue to surround yourself. The only people you can surround yourself with are these people, because it's the only type of person that will be attracted to you. So if you think about that in a relationship, an intimate relationship perspective, and if the woman is in the unresourceful masculine, can you see why the male behaves like he does in the unresourceful feminine? He becomes quite weak, and then you stand up and you keep pushing him. He'll feel quite disconnected, so you might find that your sex life gets impacted quite quickly. He'll be quite untrusting. So what you might interpret as him being protective is him being untrusting, checking up on you or feeling quite jealous or a bit of a victim. That's because that's the dynamic you've created in that relationship by leading with the unresourceful masculine. Whereas if you're in the all resourceful feminine, look how the resourceful masculine has to play with you. He does make decisions, he's protective, he's giving, he's analytical, he's focused, he's driven, and he'll actually provide through delivery. That's a really nice balance of, I suppose, connection between two individuals. So I wanted to share that with you to give you a bit more representation of why it's so important, where your power of influence comes from. So the more you're in the top, the more personal power you bring to a situation and the more influential you are. Because if you just imagine if you're coming from the bottom part and you're surrounded and someone walks into a room who's coming at their power from the top part, you automatically will gravitate towards it because it has a far more calming, knowledgeable, peaceful approach to things. The energy is far more charismatic and it's grounded in, I suppose, truth and authenticity, whereas the bottom part is actually looking for the external world to just tell them they're okay. So it's like they're ferreting around and their energy is quite erratic. And that's why you find that you disconnect quite easily because people can't find that place to connect with. So Pete, what's your experience with this resourceful, unresourceful state?
Yeah, this is actually brilliant. I'm loving seeing this. This is the first time I've sort of seen this on a screen or on paper, if you know what I mean. Um, I was definitely went through the whole. I probably went through the stages of all. Both resourceful and unresourceful in both the masculine and the feminine. Definitely more so to the top half these days, which I'm loving. But I can definitely relate to the unresourceful masculine and unresourceful feminine. It's good to see the distinctions between the two and what comes from what side. Like the jealousy, playing the victim, the untrusting. I've definitely played a lot of those in relationships of years gone by. Definitely no boundaries. And then the unresourceful masculine stuff to the external approval. That was pretty big. Right up probably until last year, or the start of this year. Scarcity, the blame game. Yeah. Judging and trying to control what's outside of you. But yeah, more
So how
definitely. Sorry, go ahead.
so how does it feel now? How easy is it for you to tell the difference between when you're coming from the resourceful side versus when you've dropped down into the unresourceful side? Is it easy for you to see?
Yeah, it's definitely easy for me to see because I feel far more empowered, and I know it. Like like you definitely notice it, and you can sort of go, okay, like get out of here, back into where I suppose where because it feels better. Actually, there's no frustration, there's no fear around the resourceful stuff. It seems to flow a lot better for me anyway.
Yeah, no, that's a really good explanation because it is about flow. The thing is, that's a really good point because everyone I still do can drop down into the unresourceful state, but it feels actually quite foreign to me now because I know about being resourceful and actively and consciously have helped myself move from one to the other because I was very much in the unresourceful masculine, very much, and the unresourceful feminine for a lot of my relationships. And I know now when I drop back into them, and it happens, my body reacts and the whole dynamic of the relationship changes and you go, whoa, not only do I have no power left generally, but I feel like crap. Okay, what have I done? Okay, I've done some scarcity, I've done a bit of this, all right, quick, let's just flip back into how can I see this differently? I've just moved into a fear state. If I was looking at this through love, what would happen? Cool, back on track. And you can flip back quite quickly once you actually can tell the difference. And your body does actually, my body reacts anyway quite quickly. I do feel like crap when I move back into the unresourceful state. Cool. So why do we need to know this? I'm going to give you some tips on how you move from one to the other. So last week we talked about seeking an outcome as a measure of success. It's an unresourceful masculine part to do. Focusing on perfection is obviously an unresourceful masculine. Living in the past is unresourceful masculine. Stop listening is unresourceful feminine. And modeling people is an unresourceful feminine. So when we talk about seeking an outcome, that actually is also about when we're not giving other people space. So we need to move to committing to a process. So when we're in a situation where we have someone come into our space and you want them to behave in a certain way, or you have expectations that you want them to do a certain thing, that's when you're focusing on a one outcome. One really tiny outcome. If that one outcome doesn't happen, then the world's fallen apart, or that person's just fallen into a state where you think they're not worthy, or bloody bloody blah, whatever story you tell. But if you commit to a process of turning up, committing to a process of whatever it is you're doing with that person, whether it's hanging out, whether it's communicating, whether it's watching a movie, whether it's being in a meeting, when you're committing to the process of participating, then you actually shift into your resourceful feminine and masculine. It's a really powerful one. So when you find yourself looking at for an end game and trying to manipulate a situation to get that one outcome, you've gone into your unresourceful masculine side. When you commit to a process, you're actually in your resourceful masculine and feminine. So the resourceful feminine knows that for things to flow, you just got to turn up every day and do the small things every day. So if you think about your health, it's not just one time that you drink hot water and lemon, or have a green juice, or go for a walk, or go to the gym. Doesn't happen in one time. It is the continual turning up to do the things that you need to do to get yourself to where you need to be. And it's in the commitment of the process that the flow occurs and things happen around you shifting, and other people around you shifting with you. So people often say to me, what do I need to do to get there today? We need to show up and actually commit to a process and not focus on one single outcome. And the reason why this is so powerful, your tiny little left side of the back part of your brain, which is unresourceful masculine, can only visualize or only see what has happened in the past, and has a very tiny perspective of what's possible. So if you only focus on one outcome, it can only deliver to you one tiny small outcome. Whereas when you commit to a process, the potential or the opportunity for things to whatever to come along, what outcome is going to happen, is actually exponential and it is infinite. So you want to be in a position where you continually set up for the process so that you don't know what might happen. That feels a bit scary, but anything can happen. And that's actually the beauty of being in your resourceful state. Focusing on perfection, which is unresourceful masculine, and we all know that perfectionism actually doesn't exist. If you say you're a perfectionist, you're actually telling the world that you have no standards. This one is to move from perfection to becoming the observer. So perfectionists focus in quite tightly on what it is that they have to do or must do. They're the only ones who can do it, and they take control and blah, blah, blah. When you move from being a perfectionist to being an observer, you realise that a lot of your behaviours are wasting time, or procrastinating, or actually just focusing on telling people that you're a perfectionist, or looking at details that don't really matter. When you become an observer of your behaviour, become an observer of a situation, you realise that you don't actually have to be involved in everything, and your answer or your contribution is probably not the best one that there could be all of the time, and you don't need to know everything all of the time. Become an observer, you'll notice that other people are actually quite capable, and that you don't have to decide or be involved in everything. Becoming an observer actually moves you into your resourceful feminine side, and this is really powerful. It's a really nurturing way to live, because you actually free up a lot of time and space from your mind, but also from your to-do list, and you get to start to do some of the things that you more enjoy. So live in the past to determine success, unresourceful masculine. So the only place is now. So we find ourselves fantasizing about the past and how we could have changed it, or we wish we could have changed it, or it's always been like this because the relationship back then was like that. This has to be like this now. We actually focus into the future. We're actually not connected to anything. So I call it future tripping, or past dwelling. You don't live in a cave, live in the past. If you want a future trip, but you're not connected. So it's very difficult, very challenging to connect to whatever it is that you're doing for a sustained time when you're in those two situations. When you live in the now, or you become present to what you're doing, things change. You actually can do a lot more in a shorter space of time, and you do it with a lot less stress and noise and drama. So Eckhart Tolle talks about it being in the flow, which it is. You feel like you are in the flow. I liken it to, it's like you start to realize that there's actually not, there's not as much stuff that actually makes sense or you need meaning from. When you live in the now, you turn up and you can appreciate things, you have a lot more gratitude, and you just get more stuff done more easily. So instead of things, when you're not in the now and you're in the past or the future, something might take you 2 weeks to do. When you live in the now, it could probably take you a day. It's a very, very powerful thing. If you haven't read Eckhart Tolle's book, The Power of Now, I would suggest you read his other book, The New Earth, first. It's a lot easier to read. The Power of Now, I found a little bit hard going to start with if you've never read his books before. But The New Earth is a beautiful book, and it's a great introduction to The Power of Now. We talked with Bronnie last week about stop listening. So when you're not listening, you're in unresourceful masculine. Listening is really the holy grail. There's nothing more powerful in any situation than being heard. When someone feels like they're being heard, you've just changed their whole world, but you've also just changed the whole dynamic of your relationship. So if you're someone who likes to talk over other people, or you find that you do talk over people because you've got that impatient, unresourceful masculine moving forward, you're actually not having any influence or any power with anyone. You're just annoying people. When you can listen to someone and they feel like they're heard, you become the most powerful person in the room. And you might be surprised at what it is that you hear from other people and what they've got to share. Listening is quite a challenging thing for us to learn and to stick into. And I find that when I've gone into my unresourceful state, it's because I've stopped listening. And people have annoyed me because I've stopped hearing what it is they're trying to say to me. Not everyone's going to say things to us directly or loudly. And so when we're listening and we're respecting what we're hearing, things change. And it's a really powerful way to step into the now. Now, in our day and age, we get taught success means let's model other people that are successful. And we get a little bit tripped up by our unresourceful masculine and feminine because we model other people, it automatically can tell us that we're not good enough. So it buys into the stories of our unresourcefulness because we will model the person who's actually got a lot of things that are far away from where we currently are. So you need to move from modeling people into modeling principles. So one of the things to move you from your unresourceful to your resourceful is understanding the principles those people apply that live in the resourceful state. And those principles will be around what's above it, so listening, being in the now, being an observer, committing to a process. It'll also be about following your own advice and your own intuition and being surrounded by people that you connect with, not with people that you think you have to be around. Model the principles of people that are successful. They turn up, they deliver, they're reliable, they delegate, they invent new things, they don't have excuses, they're disciplined. They're the things that you need to model, not because Richard Branson does X, Y, Z, I need to do X, Y, Z. Because so-and-so's got this tattoo, I must have this tattoo. Because that person's got this head, can you tell the difference? The person who has the success or what it is that you want to achieve, you model their principles. So for example, if you were someone who wanted to lose weight, you wouldn't model the principles of somebody else who was overweight. You would model the principles of somebody who had the type of health and vitality and energy that you wanted. And you'd actually model, that would be their thinking, you'd model some of their actions, but you'd make them your own so that the principles become part of who you are rather than trying to copy or be someone else. Because the minute you start to model another person, you disconnect from who you really are, and it really taps off your unresourceful state, and it goes bananas. It really does go, well, what about this? And she's thinner, or she's more successful, or she earns more money, or she's got a great boyfriend, blah, 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 blah. On it goes. Or if you model the principles that person has, like being happy, focused on self, having some self-love, surrounded by friends that make her laugh, and whatever it is, you'll find that you'll then start to experience what it is that you really want to experience. So, Pete, what do you think about those 5 tips?
Yeah, brilliant. They just tie in well to just that slide before. I love the perfection one. I used to run that perfection strategy all the time, and I set standards that high that I never met them. So, yeah, it was funny.
Perfection cycle is quite interesting because perfection cycle feeds into the drama cycle. It's generally one of the things that we judging somebody else on. So in a drama cycle, that's how we become the perpetrator and push somebody else into the victim. And then when they get, they try to live up to your standards and they can't, then you can rescue them. So that's the way that we can sometimes perpetrate that drama cycle. But perfectionism is an interesting thing that we need to let go of because what we're really saying is we don't have any standards. We just say, well, I've got high expectations. No, really, you don't have any standards at all. You don't really know what it is you're aiming for. You don't really have any strong goals. So do we have any questions at the moment, Pete?
Give me a wee minute just to see if anyone puts their hands up here. And I really love that last one about instead of modeling, people model their principles. That's very, very good.
That was a real game changer for me because when I first started, I suppose, looking at how I wanted to change my life, nearly every second book or lecture or whatever I went to talked about modeling. And I know
Yeah,
when I studied, neuro-linguistic programming, especially when I did my master's on it, they still talk about modeling people. And it really had a disconnect with my brain. It was like, well, I don't want to be X person. I don't want to be Y person. I just want to know how to more to be back, like be me.
yeah.
And then I came across someone who decoded that for me and said, no, you need to model the principles of the people, not the actual people. So that was a game changer for me. It
No,
really gave me a lot of freedom around being myself.
yeah, no, it's awesome. No questions so far. So, yep.
Cool. Well, make sure if you've got any, make sure you ask us. I'd love to have a conversation with anybody who is sitting there thinking, wow, what do I do next? So in week 1, I think we talked about how the masculine and feminine behave. So this is the unresourceful masculine through to the resourceful feminine. And I want to give you some tips on what you can do to move from one to the other outside of the 5 we've just done. This involves how you behave and turn up generally. So you need to find more opportunities to breathe. The breath is the most powerful thing that connects your energy systems, up and down your energy systems and across. So what does that mean? When your body is not imbalanced from an energy perspective, you'll start to find that's where you get your aches and your pains and everything gets really, really tight. The easiest way to actually get rid of all of that is to breathe deeper. So find opportunities to do things like yoga and Tai Chi and Pilates and even walking. So if you're someone who has a desk job or that, you don't find that you move around or exercise a lot, it's these type of exercises that you need to do. So we know that the masculine woman, we know that she might run a lot or she does weights or she has a really like, come on, let's like get on with the exercise. Well, that might have that testosterone flare for you. You're still actually using your masculine side of your energy system. So the breathing actually automatically flips you into your feminine side. So it starts to nurture your organs and your adrenal glands. So just really, really important. Next thing you should really talk about is find more opportunities to be touched. Now, for someone who's in a female in a masculine state or a male in a feminine state, being touched sometimes can be a little bit challenging. So one way to do it is, get a massage, get a very non-affectionate type of touch happening. But also try and start to hug more. This might sound weird, but if you've got family members and you realize you don't hug them, try and hug them. They're probably the most open people for you to hug. Even though I wouldn't suggest going and start hugging strangers, but start to hug your family if you're not used to it. They might think it's a bit weird if you've not normally done it. And just see how your body reacts and how it feels. And you might feel a little bit weird if you're not used to it, but I encourage you to start doing it. And find some materials like cashmere and silk to start touching. You need to activate the feminine, the resourceful feminine that has got a tactile touch to it, that likes to feel things. When you do that, your body starts to connect automatically, but you find it starts to relax. It's quite odd because it feels a bit weird, but if you're not used to touch or you like to be touched in a certain way, then you need to explore expanding that. I just want to sit here for 1 second. So if you're in your masculine feminine or your unresourceful, sorry, if you're a masculine woman in a masculine unresourceful masculine or a man in your unresourceful feminine, it is more than likely, or you may have had an experience of using sex as a way to connect. And the reason that is because you have an unresourceful pattern of touch. And so we go for something that, even though seems quite intimate, when it's done from an unresourceful masculine or an unresourceful feminine, it's actually manipulation. So you're trying to connect with somebody to get something else out of them. And the act of sex is the way that you use it. So, or not use it. So the withholding of sex is actually a control mechanism for you to get something else. So if you've been in a relationship where you say, well, if he does that, I won't give him sex, or if she does that, I won't give her sex, that is an unresourceful masculine trait to find control and manipulation to get what you want. If you are using sex to get connection, and you're saying, I just like the feeling of sex, but in reality, you're going into that situation to get maybe a relationship or maybe a love or maybe whatever, the energy that you bring to that situation is, I'm going to say it's an uncleansed or an unclean energy. And all you're doing is trying to transfer or create something that doesn't exist. And so you'll find that I've worked with, a few women and men that have used sex in an unresourceful way to get touch. Touch is a very important resourceful pattern that we need to develop because our body needs to be touched. It's part of our biological requirement. Touched by ourselves, touched by others, connected through touch. So if sex is a way that you've been getting your touch and it makes you feel crappy, so you're not getting what you really want, it's not actually sex you're after, then try and build up more resourceful ways of touching. And then you'll find when you come back into a sexual relationship, it won't be so much about the physical components that sex gives you, but the emotional connection as well. I'm not talking about, the music's on and there's, the whole smoke, and it's a big romantic love scene from a movie. I'm talking about how you feel in the moment of being touched on that intimate level. So, Pete, does that make sense around the sex component?
Yeah, that sort of hits home with the sex part for me. Well, last year anyway. Definitely, definitely feeling. Yeah, yeah, it's very interesting.
It is. I mean, it's money's quite similar. We're in a situation where we try and use money as manipulation. So I often find this when I work with business owners where they might be finding clients, but they really need money. So they're focused on the money they're going to get from their client rather than the value or the service that they can provide. And you find when you enter into a relationship with that level of manipulation, and it's unconscious, like people aren't deliberately doing it, you find that relationship is unbalanced from the start and it's quite difficult to get the value back on it. The same thing happens with sex. So when you enter into a relationship using sex as a way to get something else, you've actually come in it from I call it uncleansed energy, but an unbalanced way. And the other person can tell that. They can actually, that's why sometimes, you might meet someone, have a great time, end up being intimate with them, and the next morning it's like nothing like what you thought, or you think they're quite standoffish, or they pull away, or they're quite rude, or it's because part of it is maybe they've come into the situation the same as you, trying to get something else. Maybe they were just after the physical connection. But when you're not on the same page, you're walking away feeling like crap. It's because you've actually gone in there trying to get something else. So if you've actually had a sexual encounter with somebody and you walk away feeling great and there's nothing else into it, then, that's fine. You've actually gone in there with the intention, you've got what the experience you wanted is matched your intention, therefore you walk away feeling balanced and okay. When you walk away feeling regret or you know, feeling empty, even feeling angry, feeling sad, what are those words, whatever happens to you, it's because you've actually, your act and your intention have not matched up. And that's why you go into that sort of unresourceful state. And it is interesting because I know in our society, sexual activity is quite, it's not uncommon. It's not overly, it doesn't have to be common, but it's not uncommon that people in our society would meet, people and on a short period of time and then have a sexual encounter with them. And that's fine. But then I also spend a lot of time with people that I have to mop up after that because they believe that in the moment of everyone enjoying everything, enjoying each other, that leading to sex is okay. And it is okay. But when you've gone into there with a different intention to get something out, that's when everything goes to pot. The sex part of this relationship is always very interesting because it is the physical component or the physical expression of love, but we don't always express it in that way. We express it more in a physical need, and that's when we become a bit unbalanced. I love this next one, and I really encourage every single person to try and do this every single day, at least once a day, but I try and do it 3 or 4 times a day. Find more opportunities to laugh. When you laugh, you push a whole lot of other endorphins into your brain and they flood your body. So it automatically pushes you into your body into a resourceful state from an energetic perspective. Laughing can move you from a really sad state into a very positive, opportunistic state. So if you're in a situation where, let's just be really, a work focus, we're trying to focus on something and you're trying to really push yourself to get the answer, and you're really just focusing on you being hard on yourself and you're sort of going, oh, for God's sake, why can't you see this? Why can't you do it? Find a reason to laugh at it, and guess what? You'll move really, really quickly and you'll find the solution that you're looking for. So laughter is the way that you push yourself into observing the situation rather than being stuck in the mud and stuck in the old crappy side of it. Find more opportunities to create. Now this is horses for courses of what you want to create. So I write. I've just started to draw, which I find the most challenging creative pursuit I have done, because my left side of my unresourceful brain says, what do you think, you can't draw, that's ridiculous. The whole judgment piece comes up. I laugh and then just give it a go. So dancing is creative, singing is creative, painting, anything that you can do that has no boundary to it. So there's no right or wrong. It's an opportunity for you to let go and let the right side of your brain just go a bit nuts. And in the beginning, the left side of your unresourceful brain is going to tell you that this is crap. So let it go. So commit to the process of being creative. I even encourage women and men to be creative with their clothes. So I know it sounds a bit odd, but creation with your clothes creates a really, really simple physical expression of what your right side of your brain wants to show the world. And just go with it. So wear more colour, or put a splash of colour on, wear a hat, wear different shoes, like whatever it is, just see what happens with your right side of your brain. And this is the last one's really, really important because energy gets stuck to other energy. So find more opportunities to declutter. Declutter your physical surroundings, declutter your relationships. So you've got friends or people in your life that when you walk away from them, you feel like, ugh, or you feel really tired, or you feel just drained. That's their energy that you've picked up on, and your energy is saying this person is, get rid of them. Limit how much time you spend with them, and you'll notice a massive difference in your ability to your vitality. On your physical stuff, it's really important that you continue to get rid of stuff. Declutter on a regular basis. We say spring clean. You should really clean stuff out at least once a month. Get into the habit of moving things away. this has got a couple of benefits. It actually helps you go into the now. So we might think we're actually quite, out there and we do things really, really well. But when you look around your surroundings and you find things that have been there for 5 years, or things that are from other relationships, or things that remind you of other people, it's time to get rid of them. Because because we're so visual and we're sort of anchored to the things that are visually around us, when we have things in our surroundings that automatically flick us back into the past, all of our patterns that come up from the past come with that. So if you've got something, say, from an ex-partner, and you look at it, you automatically think of that partner. But what you don't realize that comes with it is all the beliefs and the patterns of behaviors that was attached to that, was in that relationship, come back. And you automatically go back to your unresourceful. So decluttering gets rid of any old energy stuff that's around it, but also helps you be in the now, and disconnects you from old patterns that you don't really need anymore, and you don't really need those people with you. So Pete, are you a declutterer?
I am actually. I just done out all loads of clothes. And
Yep.
just given to the salvos yesterday it was, and I'm just looking around this monstrosity of a desk, and it definitely needs a declutter.
So how do you feel when you declutter?
That's great. I just want to get rid of everything. I want to be a minimalist. Like I'm selling my TV. I'm selling loads of stuff actually at the minute, just so I can have like zero stuff. Like I'm giving all my books away because I have them all on my Kindle now, and just to get it down to zero. Really
And how does it make you feel?
feels good. Just feels light. It feels as if there's a weight off your
Yeah.
shoulders.
It is light, isn't it? I think people don't realize that, because energy has and this might sound a little bit woo woo, so I understand that, because I'm going to take the energy conversation to a different level. And I'm just going to do, because I know after hearing this for 3 weeks, you guys will get it anyway. So when you look at what Einstein used to talk about, and he talks about how energy doesn't change, it doesn't go anywhere, it's an abundance, it's actually infinite, it just changes form, that you're always in an energetic environment. So whatever physical environment you put yourself in, you actually step into the energy of that environment. So if you're in an environment where you've got a lot of crap hanging around that's been there for a long time, and nothing's been flowing through it, what sort of energy is it? It's pretty crappy and it's pretty stale. And it's a bit like your friends. If you've got friends that have been, or people in your life, bosses, whoever, that are negative, heavy, don't change, stuck in their ways, rigid, that really unresourceful masculine, you are stepping into that space when you are around them. And so if you follow what Einstein's theories talk about, then you realize that you become part of that energetic cycle. So it's really important that you declutter and move things along. So as you move forward and you let go of all your negative patterns and all your negative thoughts, and you start to move into your resourceful state, you are providing a surroundings or environment that helps you stay there. Now it's a bit woo-woo, but even things, if you clean your house and you've got knickknacks, you need to pick them up and like wipe around them and wipe under them. You need to move stuff around so that energy doesn't get stuck around it. I find when I have people in my house that come into my home, that because I do a lot of this all the time, I'm quite sensitive to energy. I'm quite sensitive to other people. That if people come into my house or my home and they've brought some negative, say, stuff with them, my house starts to feel really, really heavy very quickly. And so I need to re-energize that by getting rid of some stuff, moving some things around, smudging my house with some sage, and it comes back, like the lightness of my house comes back. So think about the areas of your life where, when you go into them, you feel a bit stodgy, you feel a bit flat, you feel a bit negative, or you walk away feeling really tired. Because your body, you need to remember, your body's got two main things. It's really about how it creates its own energy, and so it takes stuff in and eliminates it. So your body's most basic biological function is to continually move through flow by taking its environment in and taking what it needs and then eliminating what it doesn't need. So it does that through its breath, it does it through its digestive system, it does it through the skin, all the time. If we stopped eliminating and stopped moving through, our body basically breaks down, disease happens, and it will die. Our environments are no different. So you need to continually remember that you need to keep eliminating out of your environment as you can, so you can grow through that relationship cycle with yourself and with the people that are around you. So Pete, we're coming to the end of the webinar. Does anyone have any questions or would like to ask me anything about tonight's topics or anything at all?
You've flown through that tonight, Maree. That's good. No questions at the minute. I'll just give them time to type because they're probably like me and two-finger typers. No questions yet.
I wanted to leave time for conversations.
Conversations, yep. No one's putting their hand up anyway. Let's hope they're not sleeping.
Any comments anyone would like to make?
I found that really interesting about the decluttering.
Yeah, it's an interesting thing because when I first was told, I went, yeah. Because I know, like, I can create a lot of clutter.
Yeah.
Especially when I'm creating products or I'm writing, I find I'll look around, I've got a lot of paper, I've got a lot of stuff around me. And generally, I've noticed it when I've become blocked. And so to unblock and continue to flow, I have to get rid of stuff. And I'm not really the best at getting rid of stuff, I have to be honest. It's a thing I've really had to work hard at to make sure that, I'm focused on it. Because having stuff around us is one way that we feel comfortable, but it's also the fear of the unresourceful masculine saying, you can't get rid of that, because if you get rid of that, you'll need it. That's the scarcity and lack that says you have to have all these things around you or else you'll miss out or you'll, bloody, bloody, blah. So it's probably one of the most challenging things that people have to do.
Yeah, big time.
But you find once you do it and you get good at it, it's very, very light. It's very light.
Yeah, I'm loving, just getting rid of everything.
It's a lot easier to be centered. So once you're, so to stay in the now and do all the things we're talking about, then, it's a lot easier when you haven't got a lot of crappy things around you, especially people. I mean, I found that one of the most powerful things I've been able to do is get rid of crappy relationships out of my life, especially friends. I think if you think of the cycle of relationships, your friends those friendships kind of go through those cycles as well.
Yeah.
And then it will come to an end.
No. Awesome. Cool. Well, not there. Brennan says, no, it's been fascinating. So there's no questions, but everyone's saying thank you. Yes, brilliant. Awesome. Loved it, etc., etc. So that was awesome, Maree. So we can wrap it up there.
Well, if you have any questions, feel free to put them on the Facebook page and I'll answer them, or message me on Facebook. I'm happy to have a conversation with you. It's been absolute awesome fun to share this information with everybody. I hope you've received some value and that you can take some of these tips away and start to implement them and see some impact and change in what you want to experience in your life and your relationships.
Cool. Well, thanks a million, Maree, from me as well. Like, it's been really, really good, and I'm getting loads from it. Like, even more. So even though I've been working with you and stuff, this has been absolutely fantastic.
Thanks, Pete. Thanks for the opportunity to share this with your amazing followers, and congratulations to you for making it just over halfway of your journey.
Easy. All right. Thanks, Maree.
So I say that with a giggle, but yeah, I know it's not funny.
It's all good. All right. Thanks, guys. Thanks, everyone. Bye-bye.